All right. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. My name is Frank Lavinia, and I am the co-host of Data Driven Impact Quantum and the blogger behind franksworld.com. Today, it is my distinct pleasure to bring on a esteemed guest, Baby Supriya. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Um, so first off, I would just want to say thanks to everyone who's watching. If you're watching live, I will be monitoring the chat and the comments, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions in real time. Today's kind of theme, if you will, is going to be about how do you go from being a data science grad student to working at either a big tech company or landing your first job. I think that's what we're going to be talking about today. So with that, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to come and speak before you in the LinkedIn Live event. My name is Baby Supriya, currently pursuing Masters in Data Science stream in Stevens Institute of Technology located in New Jersey. Also, I work as a graduate student ambassador for the Department of Mathematics in my graduate school. A little bit about myself is like I had an opportunity to work as a panelist for fellow juniors in my grad school. After listening to juniors' queries and doubts on choosing data science course, I received an idea to host a live event. The one I am sharing with you can help as a user guide before a student approaching to the graduate school and what kind of homework do they need to do. So that they will end up going into a good college and choosing a good course if they are really interested in going for data science stream. And also, my deep gratitude and thanks to the Frank for giving me an opportunity to share my ideas and thoughts of grad school life. I'm very happy for this.
Oh, anytime. I think it's important. I think first off, your school's in Hoboken, which is not too far from where I grew up. I grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey, and Staten Island, so I'm familiar with the area. And Stevens, there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens at Stevens Tech that I don't think people are aware of, and I think it's a great school. I almost went there myself, and but I didn't want to live at home anymore. So, but for me, I think it's interesting to kind of dive into. You're a grad student. You obviously have been in college. When I was in college, data science did not exist as a term, but at some point you made a decision to take a data science course and pursue that line of study. So what led you down that path?
Yeah, I would like to. I had my undergrad in electrical and electronics engineering because I loved mathematics very much since childhood. The way like if you give a question, you can solve it in two ways. That is mathematics. So I took electrical and electronics engineering where I had a lot of math based courses intensively focused, and after that I got placed into the Cognizant where I had a chance to work with a Walmart client for 3+ years. There, my job is to predict the sales based on the past history of a Walmart data. So we used to get a lot of jobs from the data warehouse, like they run in ETL jobs in the daily over the night, and we used to get all the records, and we used to predict. We have a main job is to predict our day-to-day sales based on past history. So from undergrad as a transition from student to employee, I enjoyed a lot with production issues happening with batch jobs, predicting sales for the holiday season. Like you see a lot of stores with in Walmart or Costco, wherever you go. You already the holiday seasons like how many Christmas trees we need to bring, how much of decorative stuff we need to bring, how many milk cans do I need to bring. Some are perishable and some are not perishable. So how do you predict this? If we predict it properly, how many milk cans going to sell for this week? If we predict it properly, it will reduce a lot of cost savings to the business, and also they can earn a lot of revenue. So this is a kind of a real world thing happening. So all these kind of production issues made me very happy daily, and never the job was never the same. Today, the job after a month it will definitely change because holiday season predictions are different, and predicting for the first quarter is completely different. So I prepared. So I got some love with the data, mathematics, and problem solving. Then I made a choice to apply for the graduate school, and I wrote a couple of standardized tests, and I got into the Stevens Institute of Technology.
So you're one of the lucky few, and I use the term lucky in the sense that you've been in university during a pandemic. You'll probably be telling your grandkids about this year, and I know I will be. For sure. My maternal grandmother had lived through the 1918 pandemic, and
Ah.
yeah, so she never talked about because she would have been about a kindergartner-ish age. So, but it definitely, I could say it definitely altered her behavior. So um, your school, your class life has probably been turned upside down by the pandemic, and I mean, how did
Um,
that affect your learning? How did that affect what you're doing, and how does that affect? Has that had a positive, negative, or negative impact on your job prospects?
yeah, I would like to share my story. Like, I got enrolled into Stevens in fall 19 intake. So my first semester went well, and then after, so I just started my second semester in Jan 16th, 2020. By March, we started listening to the pandemic issues. But the beautiful thing is, because of my grades and because of my problem solving ability, I got a new position in my grad school as a graduate student ambassador to help my juniors understand the queries and answer their queries. Like my dean of chair mathematics, who namely Darinka, she recommended me to go for the student ambassador position for data science. So unknowingly, pandemic created one job opportunity to me. One positive side, and it didn't affect my learnings much because we had my professors were so helpful. So whatever project ideas I go and reach out to them, they used to be very helpful with me in the office hours. They used to clear my doubts, and my teammates were so good that we were able to do some real world projects like forecasting the stocks prediction using machine learning techniques, and we're going to publish the paper soon. So my learning curve didn't affect it because of the pandemic. But the thing which I really lost was I got an opportunity, like a couple of internship offers in April itself to my inbox, where I got selected as a Python and machine learning tutor, and also I got selected as a data analyst for one more company where I don't want to reveal any names. I received offer letters. I was very happy so that I can have a real world experience in summer intern. But due to the pandemic, due to budget cost issues, maybe the letters have been rescinded. I felt a little bit different. My esteem was a bit low, but even then, I had an opportunity to interact with so many people like Frank and so many eminent professors in LinkedIn, and I was able to come up with beautiful ideas. And in the next semester, in the fall 2020, I did a real world project like for stocks prediction using machine learning. Like I heard, like Jeff Bezos, those Jeff received a lot of money through the stocks in this current 2020 year. So that made me interesting. So how he is able to predict the stocks, and how he was able to, like, rich attracts the rich, money attracts the money. How did it happen? I felt like investigating a little bit. So I went ahead and did some research over the paper, took literature survey, and I was able to do that project. That really made me happy, and I'm looking forward for new opportunities in 2021 too.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Walmart and some of the stuff you've done is definitely very cutting edge and things like that. I mean, and you've been very clever in terms of, making the best out of the pandemic situation. You hear a lot of bad stories, but I think you're going to hear a lot of smart people, good people, or motivated people kind of rise to the top during all this. So kudos for you for getting it done. Um, uh, so you're in that transition space. I know are you actively looking for work now? Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yes, I'm looking for active work because I'm in the last semester where I can work in CPT for any company like on part-time 20 hours or 40 hours.
Mhm.
If a client approves, we have the so and so roles and responsibilities, our graduate school will allow me to can give a CPT work authorization where I can work for a company in the full time too. So
Awesome.
I'm also eagerly looking for good opportunities as a data analyst or a junior data scientist, where I can go to the real world project and interact with a lot of teams. I used to do that in India too as a programmer analyst, and now with the new techniques I have learned in my school, I'm looking forward to learn more from the teams, and I'm just excited to.
Awesome, awesome. And so first off, I don't think we really double clicked on this enough. I know I'm deviating a little bit from the questions, but she worked at Walmart. She worked at Walmart doing data science and prediction, and people I don't think realize people at large don't realize how good the data science team at Walmart is. and how long and how storied some of the things that they figured out has been. So the fact that you were able to work in that environment and exceed, I mean, somebody's going to hire you quick. I guarantee it.
Frankly, frankly speaking, like I just went to the team of a Walmart from undergrad.
Yeah.
Basically, my learning curves were completely different. I used to interact with the directors, clients in USA, with Diana especially, where I had like in the holiday season, especially in Thanksgiving at December time, the production issue. The complete there will be a lot of difference in the last quarter of the December because of the sales season, and the procedures were completely different. Production issues will go for the production issues, especially in the first quarter and second quarter, to fix the issues we face in holiday season. But the holiday season learning curves were completely different, and I'm really thankful for the Walmart client and the data where I had a chance to work with as an undergrad student there.
Awesome.
That shaped me, that gave me foundation steps to go for masters in data science.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when I was a kid, I hated math, believe it or not. So what kind of homework, um, or what kind of classes do you think a student should go for before getting into a data science course?
Yeah, actually, I used to fear a lot for mathematics when I was a child. But then my mother realized that she need a very good tutor who can help her understand the concepts in an innovative way. Like 1 to 2 years, she gave me a home tuition, and after that, I was able to ace every paper 100%, 100 out of 100 in any paper, even in 10th, ninth class, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, engineering. Almost my math papers will be 99 out of 100 or 100 out of 100. Never went beyond that, below that score. Why? Because allowed my tutor helped me to understand a lot about the mathematics. And if you give me a problem, I don't feel like solving it in one way. I just want to solve it in 2 to 3 ways. The same happened with the problem solving ability too. If you give me a problem, if I can solve it in using if a statement, and also using a dictionary in Python. So that approach of mathematics I was able to apply in the coding too, and so I built some interest over the coding and mathematics. So this became the foundation since childhood. I should thank my parents very much for giving this hard foundation on mathematics. And after that, a couple of, like, if you are good at mathematics and problem solving ability, like in any language like Java or Python, you should also be good at knowing the basic terms of statistics and probability, which will really help you to understand more about when you are coming to machine learning and deep learning techniques. You need this kind of statistics background. So even in interviews, people test a lot of questions on Bayes probability. You can see a lot of questions over that Bayes probability, logistic regression, linear regression. Try to solve it using Excel. You should know how to solve it using an Excel and programmatically. So this way, your skills will get better. So that you know how to understand the mathematics. You know how to solve the same problem with programming code.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, I think statistics is probably about when I took statistics. Well, the first time in college, I didn't like it so much, but the second time I took it, it was great. And at the end of that stats class, I felt like I could be a data scientist. Before that, I wasn't so sure. But after I climbed the statistics hill, everything was a lot. I wouldn't say it was easy, but definitely in my head, it wasn't impossible anymore. Because statistics is, I mean, statistics is harder to say sometimes, but in some ways, I would say that um, there's a lot of parts to stats, and they're not difficult individually, but together to kind of figure out how it all stitches together, I think is what makes it hard. And the fact that you're using funny little Greek characters probably doesn't help either. Um, but it is what it
Yeah,
is.
you're right. If you give a data set, like we should be able to check whether the data set is balanced, or does
Right.
it, can we apply the standard normal distribution or Gaussian distribution, or which kind of machine learning algorithm will help for this kind of problem, so that optimization of algorithm happens and a lot of revenues can happen to the firm. So how do you apply? And what kind of algorithm to be applied to the given data set is the main deal. And also data cleaning techniques, like in statistics, we statistical using statistical terms, we do that. It takes like 80 to 90% of time for any data scientist. Though it is very difficult to clean the rough and the raw data, that involves a lot of fun too if we take it in another way. And I hope this kind of job should be taken by a person who are really passionate, working with the data, numbers, and crunching down into the dashboards so that CEO can take decision later on.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's still a growing field, despite what people say. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes on to just understand the data, and I think anyone who can understand the data and explain it and work with it, I think is definitely in a good position. You've certainly worked on some amazing projects, and you know, um, uh, I wish you the best. I know you and I have been talking offline about some other things we can collaborate on. Andy and I, my co-host, will be announcing hopefully that soon. But now we're doing something a little different this time. You're going to ask me questions, right?
Oh, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for.
Like I'm a grad student. I'm applying for couple jobs in so many companies. I would like
Mhm.
to know about your journey to in Microsoft.
Well, so my journey to Microsoft was kind of it's multi layered. I actually first, and this is, I think this brings up an interesting point for folks who are job seekers. It took me about 2 or 3 tries to get into Microsoft the first time. I
Oh.
first applied for a job at Microsoft in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I first decided I want to work for Microsoft in sometime around 2004. Um, and I didn't think I was ready. I spent the next 2 years kind of building up and getting ready. First interview did not go well.
Oh.
um, so there used to be this thing, obviously in the pandemic, it's different, but there used to be this thing
Mhm.
where, um, they would have a finals day, right? So Microsoft, a lot of companies that call it finals day, but so what they'll do is that they'll have you do interviews on the phone a couple of times, and then they'll bring you
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
to the office to have like a full on like all day marathon session of interviews, usually starting around 8 a.m. or 9
Uh-huh.
a.m. all the way till the end of the day. So now the one of the things was that people would always say, like, did you make it past lunch? Right.
Oh.
So they so they give you a box lunch, and they would basically say before lunch comes out, they would say right after lunch ended, they'd be like, "Yeah, you can go home now." So the first time I didn't make it past lunch. Um, the second time, I think they already had somebody in mind for the job.
Mhm.
Um, but and then the third time I tried, it was just a perfect fit. Everything went well, and so that was great. So I worked for Microsoft from 2011 to 2016. In 2016, they said I had to move to Redmond. My wife has a pretty good career here. My family is all up and down the East Coast. I
Mhm.
said I'm going to pass. A couple of years later, an opportunity opened up back at Microsoft, and I was like, well, let's see what happens. And then I actually got that job again. So my career path was I started in computer science,
Mhm.
and I'm a bit older than you. So when I originally went to college, I originally went to Fordham University to do a chemical engineering degree.
Oh.
And because my mom worked at a very large chemical company, and she saw people who had very stable employment for 20, 40 years at that
Mhm.
same chemical company doing kind of the same thing,
Oh.
and it seemed like a good path, right? So it was, my parents growing up, we were kind of lower middle class type thing, and they were like, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Like, those are your
Okay.
choices.
Okay. Okay.
If you don't do any of those three, there's the military recruitment station down the street.
Oh, you
You
have to
could
go.
go there, get a career in the military. That was pretty much it.
Oh.
And so I started college, and then I actually had a Navy scholarship. I was in part of the
Mhm.
Navy ROTC program, which at the time was not on campus at Fordham. It was somewhere else on the other side of the Bronx. So because I had to be on the other side of town, I couldn't take a chemistry class. So I took a
Oh,
computer programming course
I see.
because to fulfill a requirement. And then I talked to the computer science professor, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you could totally get a major in computer science." He's like,
Okay.
"How could you not know this?" Right? Like, now to put it in perspective, this guy worked at IBM his entire career. So like for him, so I was like, "Wait a minute, I can actually get a degree in this." He goes, "What?" And I said, "What are the jobs like in computer science?" He goes, "I don't know. Why don't you go look at the New York Times?" So this is a relic of the 90s, right? So like in the
Okay.
90s, every Sunday, the New York Times would print out a special edition, and a big chunk of it was the jobs section. This is
Okay.
before monster.com,
Uh-huh.
etc. And I looked through the job section
Mm-hmm.
and just saw all the jobs that were on Wall Street programming. This is pre-quants, right? That sort of thing. And I was just like, wow. So my parents came to visit me, and I told them like, hey, I want to switch my major. And my dad was like, really? What are you going to do? Basket weaving or whatever? And he's like, is it pre-med? And I'm like, no. He goes,
Okay.
and then so I said to him, I was like, well, I want to switch to computer science. I
Mm-hmm.
like it. I had a Commodore 64 as a kid, right?
Okay.
So I got good at programming it. And then I showed my dad and my mom the papers, like, the newspapers where you could make really good money doing computer science. And at the time it was
Mm-hmm.
like 7 or 8 large newspaper pages of just jobs working in C, C++, and in Wall Street.
Okay.
And my father thumbed through it all very quietly. And he's like, I'm sold. And then my mom looked at it because, but she called me Frankie. She's like, "But Frankie, you don't want to be one of those weird people in the basement." um,
No, like a little surprised and different, feeling different, like our guy choosing a different course. Uh-huh.
yeah. So it was one of those things where it was kind of like it was something I wanted to do, and it had a career. I think I really had to sell my parents on it, and then ever since then, I never looked back. I actually didn't get into data until mid 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
Or early 2010s. I actually spent most of my time writing. I did do some database work early in my career,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to become a DBA or
Okay.
data administrator. And I switched to client development and things like that. If you look, let's see if I can show myself on full screen. If you look up there behind the data-driven logo, there we go. I'll move it. Uh, right there, that's
Mm-hmm.
tablet. I actually got a consulting gig when I lived in Virginia, working on handwriting recognition systems on tablet PC, which was my first touch with neural networks and things like that. Um, then I got into Silverlight and Windows Phone,
Mm-hmm.
which was an absolute mistake. And then I realized that data visualization, data is where I wanted to go, and
Yes.
here I am. I
Oh, and may I know like how many rounds of interview happened in Microsoft for you while you are going as a data architect?
um, could you repeat that? I didn't catch all that.
Oh, sorry. How many rounds of interview happened for you
Oh,
for
for this job,
yes, as a
so
data architect?
I had kind of the initial call.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work with the hiring manager at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so we knew each other. We had an initial call, and then I had a technical screen, and then they flew me up to Boston for um, a interview in person.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I did okay on that. I didn't do fantastic.
Okay.
So the hiring manager's like, "I'll give you one more shot. You got to do this." But it wasn't about technology at that point. It was about sales because I was really a sales engineer,
Okay.
and so I had a. There's a whole story behind this, and I don't want to bore everyone, but basically, uh, Kim Schmidt and I used to work together at Microsoft, and then
Mm-hmm.
I got laid off about a year after she got laid off, and then
Mm-hmm.
we connected, and I was like, let's start a business, like a data consultancy. And then the thing I think Kim and I both learned was we couldn't sell anything. Like our sales skills
Oh,
were terrible.
okay.
So I kind of had this thought in my head is like, well, I need to grow that skill set of mine. And so, in that job, I was able to kind of get better at sales. I wouldn't call myself a sales
Okay.
professional, but I'm much better at it now than I was
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years ago. Um, then I got this job because this job I work at what we call the Microsoft Technology Centers, and they are they're kind of pre-sales engineering, but you basically host, and I'll do a live stream just about what I do because I think it's fascinating. It's one of the things I think more people should know about what Microsoft offers its customers. Um, and the uh, that interview, I had a couple of phone calls,
Okay.
screens, and then an in person. My last day physically in the Microsoft office before the pandemic was my finals day. Um,
Oh.
so yeah, so it's definitely, persistence pays, right? And if you do get an interview and you get rejected, find out why. It may not be personal, right? Chances are
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not. Particularly at a big company like Microsoft, because the managers are under pressure to do something, and they will hire people that will help them accomplish their goals. So find out. For me, I found out I needed to up my sales
Mm-hmm.
ability,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, I mean,
Obviously.
I listened to a ton of audiobooks. There's Grant Cardone. There's the Wolf of Wall Street guy, Jordan Belfort. Regardless of what you think about him from the movie, he knows how to sell, and he
Okay.
now does courses on that. Um,
Oh.
um, you know, um, yeah. So I mean, persistence pays, and just be committed to lifelong learning. So
Hmm.
in the past, I've done kind of talks to high school students and stuff like that, and all the teachers and stuff, they want me to say, get a job in STEM, right? STEM this, STEM that. And when I was a kid, there was just, the word STEM didn't exist, right? Um, I just tell them, I was like, hey, you know what? If you, it's a good living. You get you get a job in computers and technology and high tech. It's a good living. It's a great living.
Mm-hmm.
However, the days where you go to school and then you get a job in a cubicle somewhere and you were there for 40, 50 years and you can do this for the next, 20 years, those days are gone. Like, you
Yes.
have to like it. You have to be committed to lifelong learning. And if you're not, you're going to be miserable. So,
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, that. I mean, especially in this field, right? New algorithms doesn't happen every day, but
Yes.
pretty often a new algorithm gets discovered. Particularly in the neural networks world where all that research happens. If you don't like learning, you don't like what you do, it's going to be a long.
Yeah, maybe someone can excel us and maybe someone can take out our position. But if we keep updating and going into leadership activities and growing as a tech and leadership skills will definitely help people here
Absolutely,
to
absolutely.
do best.
So we
Yeah.
have some comments.
Uh,
This is from Nonchalant NYC. Sorry, I didn't see the comments right away. And how does a data scientist study data? Is there a general format? Do you want to take this one?
yes. Like we receive data. Like I would like to take a real world example. Suppose if it is a banking sector, they will be having so much of transactional data in the Oracle database. They may receive some customer logs from websites when they click on JSON format, CSV, .csv, XML files. So many kinds of data we do receive. Suppose I'm working for an ICICI bank. Let us take that use case, and I receive data from so many forms like Oracle database, XML, JSON, CSV. So how do you want to use this data for real time streaming? They use Hadoop batch system. Batch streaming does happen. Real time streaming should happen because batch processing happens for company internal data, and real time streaming happens because when I go to the Walmart and if I buy some medicines or somewhere, instantly I receive a message like you have received a 10% discount on so and so product for purchasing the Walmart. How does it live streaming happens? Because they involve some Hadoop clusters, big data tech. This is called as a big data technology implementation. They use Hadoop clusters and they run PySpark on the top of the Hadoop, so that the customer will receive instant data whenever they purchased something. There are two types of streaming. Batch streaming happens for the internal client, like what ICICI want to do internally. Like they want to predict like which kind of customers are really good at clearing the loans. So they want to identify prospective customers so that they can, if they give a loan to some person, that kind of mortgage can be cleared within the given time. So it depends on the type of data. So normally we invest 80 to 90% of time in the data cleaning itself. Once the data is cleaned, based on the client requirement, we apply the algorithm and we optimize the given business. suppose for an ICICI bank, they want to understand within the next 5 years, like do my loans can be covered or not, how much mortgage can be given. For any general manager, like in the working in bank, they will be having this many number of millions of dollars which you need to be given for the loan, and they have to be taken back from the customer too. So this way the bank runs. So for the given problem, which kind of optimization we need to optimize the machine learning algorithm for sure. So data cleaning techniques and real time streaming based on the aim of the data, aim of the client, we are going to run the system. So it's better if you want to gain more understanding of this, take some use case of the data present in the journals and try to replicate it in your code. You will receive a lot many thoughts, and you will be more creative than what I'm saying now.
Awesome. Same user on Periscope, Nonchalant NYC5. Third time is the charm. Indeed, it is. Persistence. There's a saying, I believe it's attributed to a Japanese proverb: "Fall down 7 times, get up 8," something like that. It definitely, persistence pays. You can't beat someone who's tenacious enough. So next, I think you have some more questions.
Yeah. Like Frank, do you normally interact with the data scientist or data analyst in your day-to-day job role?
I do, actually. So my current job, I actually find myself and doing a lot more data engineering than I do in data analytics. And if you're watching and you're like, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is kind of like, well, it's like being a chef versus a plumber, right?
Oh.
So data engineering is about getting the data from point A to point B. Sometimes the cleaning and the transformation. The data science part it can be part of it. There's not a clean line saying, this person's a data engineer and this person's a data scientist. There are clearly, it's kind of those things that line is obvious when you see it. But ultimately, what a data engineer does is it enables and empowers the data scientist, right? Because what you hear in the news is, new AI algorithm can recognize pictures of dogs from space. I don't know, right? Like whatever it is. But what they don't tell you is, in order to train the algorithm had to, examine and be exposed to tens of millions of images.
Yes.
That's non-trivial sometimes, right? How do you pick the images that you want to do? How do you get that data? Because at the end of the day, it's all bits on a hard drive somewhere. How do you get it from here to there and do something meaningful with it? That's data engineering. And that's what, honestly, since I'm in a very customer-facing role, most of my customers, they find themselves, they find themselves, well, we know we have the data. We want to do something with the data, but they're not really sure where to start. And almost always that becomes, getting back to what you said, is it streaming data? Is it this? You have to classify the problem that you're trying to solve, right?
Yes.
Am I trying to figure out if I'm a company that does retail, right? I want to make sure I offer the right products to the person at the same, at the time. How do I do that, right? And this isn't rocket science per se, but it takes a lot of effort. So, for instance, my wife went to IKEA today, and she loves IKEA. We actually looked online on their website, and they said they had 10 of a particular item. She gets there, they had none.
Oh.
Right? Now, you can cut them some slack. It's a pandemic, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day,
it happens in holiday season a lot.
Well, I mean, it's just like, and it's a good hour or so drive away. And it's kind of one of those things where it's 2020, almost 2021. A retailer should have a pretty good handle on what they have.
Yeah.
I think. And, if you've ever been to Walmart, or Sam's Club, what they do now is they'll scan your receipt when you leave. And then they'll scan a couple of things in your cart to make sure that it matches up.
Yes.
I noticed this because I'm a data, professional. And I thought was, when the lady was scanning it the first time she did it, I was like, I hope they're up to date. I mean, because I mean, think about that. So, what if you actually legitimately bought something and that record hadn't updated yet? What would it do? Takes a lot of engineering to make
Uh,
that reliable to that
yes,
point.
yes.
And you know, and I'm sure at a much higher level, all that data of what I bought, I usually buy this and that with this. I know at a higher level because Sam's Club is owned by Walmart, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I know at a higher level they are doing that, but at the ground level, the
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure to support that skyscraper, if you will, um, has to be the data engineering, and that's what I find myself doing primarily in a day to day. Obviously, my heart is in artificial intelligence, and from time to time, I do get to do that for work, but I mostly do it for fun. But yeah, so it's definitely, and that's where I think a lot of companies have a lot of room to grow. There's a big opportunity in the data engineering space.
And what it takes for data scientists or data analysts like me to grow into a data engineer. So, what type of skills do you enhance? Like, do you recommend for students like me to focus on from now on?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I think again, getting back to it's lifelong learning, like it's career long learning. If you try data engineering and you hate it, know enough to get to do what you want to do. But if you actually happen to like it, I mean, ultimately it comes down to, I think something you had said, right? Like, obviously I work for Microsoft, right? So
Yes.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing Oracle stuff.
Mhm.
But Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, all of those things are relational databases. So
Yes.
if you have a pretty good, solid understanding of what's actually happening in a data, uh, at the underpinnings of whatever data platform you're in. So if you're
Mhm.
using any of the RDBMSs, right, the traditional relational database management systems,
Uh,
you should know things like, hey, why would a Cartesian response be bad, right?
mhm.
Not not that the exact everything and what happens and what the execution plan is, but just know that it's bad. If you're doing select star from a table,
Mhm.
know that that's okay for development, but not okay for production, right? And
Yes.
and for those who don't know, select star. So if I say select star from customers, what that's going to do is it's going to pull out every
Everything.
column,
Yes.
right? So in a performance sensitive production scenario, select star. What if I only need the first name and the last name? So
Yeah. Then I'll use select first name, last name from
right,
some
you would just
table.
do that. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not rocket science, if you will, but
Mhm.
you just have to understand, like, every time I do something, there's a performance cost and it's a trade-off.
Yes.
It's kind of like that. You just have to kind of think through, kind of, and just know a little bit about the engine. It's kind of like driving, right? I have an automatic transmission. I always had, but I know not to go 90 miles an hour in first gear.
Yes.
Right? I don't know the exact mechanics of, well, actually, I do because I used to work in a garage, but I've forgotten a lot of it. Just know that it's a bad idea. Know a little bit why that's a bad idea, but you don't have to know anything else other than that. I mean, that's kind of
Mhm.
my one way to approach it.
Okay. And how about the culture and what observations you had in Microsoft?
So Microsoft is the only company that I willingly went back to or ever went back to.
Mhm.
I like Microsoft's culture. Every company has their own kind of cultural footprint. Some are good, some are bad, some are neutral, some are really bad. um, what I like about Microsoft is that there's definitely a culture of a growth mindset.
Mhm.
You'll hear our CEO Satya Nadella say growth mindset at least once every public talk. Um, he means it, like he really means it. And I would say is that the access to training resources that we have at Microsoft is just not like anywhere else I've worked.
Oh.
Um, I get a Pluralsight subscription, I get LinkedIn Learning, I get
Mhm.
anything I want to learn. Chances are really good I have a subscription to that service. And for me, I really appreciate that because if I need to, one of my recent fascinations is quantum computing,
Oh.
right? Um, and we have researchers that are doing work in that space, and have a whole podcast, Impact Quantum, just devoted towards that, and could geek out about that another time. But we have these internal training conferences too, whether they're virtual now, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been to the ones in Redmond. I've been to the ones that they hold in Vegas, the one that we hold in
Vegas.
Seattle. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
the commitment to training up their people is
Mm-hmm.
second to none that I've seen, and I
Oh.
think that's what I think it's what makes a world class organization world
Mm-hmm.
class.
Oh. And does Microsoft do invest on STEM courses, women into the STEM courses? Like we see out of the world, only 5% of the population of women were into STEM courses. Do they endorse kind of these charity organization?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of charity. There's the benefits in terms of they'll match your donation. So if you give a donation to an organization, they'll match it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tuition reimbursement plan, but I should probably look into that.
Okay.
But I haven't.
Oh, I see. I'm really excited when I'm learning things from you, and I wish I would be working with your team later on, at least down the line, 5 to 7 years.
Awesome. No, I think you would be a great asset to Microsoft. I'm not a hiring manager, uh, but for those watching the stream, whether on LinkedIn or Twitch or YouTube, we have a very smart professional here who has an advanced degree, who is a grad student, who's already worked on some pretty interesting problems. So, she can hit the ground running and whatever problems you have.
And I would like to share for the transition I had from undergrad to grad, it took almost 5 years for me to for this transition, especially because of working with Walmart data day-to-day issues. I had a pleasure of when I was in India, I didn't had much of awareness over the culture in USA, but only it is only because of working with Walmart data, knowing the trends and predicting something for the holiday season. I was able to understand the Thanksgiving patterns, Christmas, the New Year. How does the work look like? And that really gave me stepping stones for the data science program, especially for choosing USC. I really loved going for seminars in New York and I enjoyed a lot. The one thing which really it's what goes around comes around, like the empathy and empathy towards the people, fellow people, especially is it in your teammates or your colleagues, friends, or anyone who is passing on the road. If you are able to do something good for them, it will definitely come back. So as a part of giving back in 2020, I'm sharing these experiences as a woman, as a girl. I had a low esteem even when I was in India. Many a time when I was unable to understand a particular case study or something in the project or out of the project, but with time I was able to update myself, and I was and also I had this. I observed this. Many people work a lot obsessively and do gain weight without understanding their body and health. So I request everyone who is working, especially in the tech, if you keep sitting for a long time, you may end up getting a lot of unnecessary fat into your body. So for at least for every hour, at least try to use a standing desk, or if you don't have standing desk, at least for every hour keep an alarm, come back out for 5 to 10 minutes, do some 5 minutes, do some squats, have a walk, and pamper your baby or your pet in your home. It gives a lot of emotional attachment, and you will come back with for near the desk with the innovative thoughts. I always receive these innovative thoughts when I'm doing some certain workout or when I'm resting my body for some time. So rest is very important for people who are working in tech. I wish you a very successful journey for everyone in this pandemic. We are able to cross that like 1 year of period. Some have ups and downs. I know even I had ups and downs, but I felt like giving back something to the data community, and I'll
Awesome.
definitely be sharing my thoughts to in future.
Awesome. And I think people have to realize that everybody is on their own journey. And, this stuff isn't, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, it is hard. I mean, moving data around and working with this, and it's just one of those things where it just takes time and practice. I mean, I hated math. Sounds like you hated math when you were a kid too. I always tell that to if I talk to high school students, I was like, if you hate math and you feel like you're left out in the future, there's still hope. I mean, I'm
Like
lucky. My
at certain times, finding the right mentor for your problem will
Yes,
help. That helped me come into data science, to choose my data science. I owe a lot to my teachers and gurus who transformed me this way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Like it's not so much that you hate math. It's just the way you've been introduced to it.
Yes,
It doesn't gel with you, right? It just, there's certain types of music I like, there's certain types of music I don't like, there's certain types of food I like, there's certain types of food I don't
yes,
like. And it's not just like, I mean, if you take a dish like chicken, right? Chicken can be made any hundreds of different ways.
yes,
Maybe you like chicken parmesan, maybe you don't like it, right? It's not that you don't hate the chicken. You just don't like how it was presented to you. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's really a good explanation, but but I mean, it's ultimately, and I think that gets into that whole growth mindset thing. Like, do you really hate that? I don't know. Do you? You know, it's just how you've been exposed to it. I think that's a good thing. And I think if anything we've learned this year is we're only on this planet for a finite period of time. We're only healthy for a finite period of time. You should do things that give you energy that you like to do.
yes.
And that's kind of what I'm taking away. I know everyone says 2020 was such a horrible year. Personally, I've had way worse years. But part of what a bad year makes you do is grow and be introspective and find ways to be stronger.
Yes.
And for me, that's definitely true. Any parting thoughts? Any
Um,
party questions, thoughts?
no much, and I wish you a very healthy and abundant year in 2021. And
Awesome.
I wish all this ups and downs will keep you moving forward in 2021 and come up with innovative ideas.
Awesome. I think that's a great sentiment. I'll put up the holiday lights on the stream. Um, hope you had a great holiday. I hope you're enjoying if you have time off, you're enjoying it. I'm Frank Lavinia. I've been speaking with Baby Supriya, who is a grad student and is looking to do the transition into kind of a more of a career. And definitely, um, definitely an awesome conversation. And I understand you have a hard stop around 3:30. So if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the comments. I'm sure both of us will try to answer them. And be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll pop up her name one more time. And be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn and hire her quickly because she's super smart, super cool. And that's all I've got.
Yeah, thank you so much, Frank, for giving this feedback to me, and I will
Awesome.
learn a lot from you. And
Awesome.
I would like to know, like these kind, how do you interact with a data architect or a software engineer? Is not written in any blogs. It comes up with real time experience. I'm very happy interacting with you and knowing more from you. All right.
Awesome. So definitely, I think we'll have you back on for another show. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions that you weren't able to ask live. And thanks for everyone who's watching. Thank you, Nonchalant NYC5, for your comments. Have a
Bye
great
bye
day.
for now.